Hey everybody, welcome back to the Securicy Brief. Today we are going to talk about office network security. So this is your local area network in your workspace or your office. So the first thing that I recommend people do when they're thinking about what their approach is going to be to their network security is really starting with an inventory. So doing a network diagram, figuring out what's happening on your network. So things like, are there servers on your network? How many workstations? How many laptops, phones? Do you have IoT devices? Are they mandatory? What type of data is being transmitted around on these IoT devices? This will all give you sort of a good idea of the level of complexity of your network. Now, if you're sort of like the average sort of modern early stage software as a service type company, then you have like 10, 12, 20 employees, something like that, and everyone's using their laptops and maybe their phones, there's no server on site, then you can probably get by with a reasonably lighter level of security than, for example, if you were a 400 or 500 person company with multiple servers and machinery that's running on the network and cameras that are IoT cameras and all that kind of stuff. So you really got to look at the complexity level. And one thing I will just say is that this is really sort of covering this on a high level. If you have a very complex network, so if you have something that sounds more like the latter, the 400 employees or the servers and all these IoT devices, you should really have somebody within your organization that has a strong understanding of networking and network security, or you should be working with a managed service provider to ensure that things are being looked after properly. Now, if you're more like the startup, the 20 devices or 20 laptops, 20 phones and no servers, then you could probably just go with the minimum level of security recommendation that I would make, which involves the following. So first one would be having a supported router with an activated firewall. So this means that it's a router that you can still get updates for. You can just check your model, make a model online to find out if it's still support it. Make sure you change the default admin login credentials so that if somebody gets on your network, they can't go in there and make changes and add backdoors and stuff like that. Update your firmware. So again, if it's a supported router, they're going to issue firmware updates every time there's a new vulnerability discovered. So make sure that you're getting those updates, or you have auto update turned on. Make sure that you have at least WPA2 personal with a strong password. If you have guests that come to your office and you allow people that are not part of your organization to access your network, then turn on the guest network. Most modern routers have a feature to enable a guest network. And then the other one that I would say in terms of that minimal configuration is just make sure that the network hardware is in a secure place. So it shouldn't be just out in the open where anybody can access it. It should be in a room or in a locked office or just somewhere where there's a little bit more control, and keep an eye on it. Another thing you can do is have a camera on it, just so you'd be able to know if somebody came up and stuck like a USB stick or something like that into it. Now, you can go a little further, and this is what I would recommend, especially nowadays. So I would recommend getting a higher quality firewall, and you can even accomplish this by getting rid of sort of that, like, whatever that router is that your service provider brings to you, or the cheapest one at your local Best Buy. You can go and get something a little better, spend a couple of $100, get a business grade router. And nowadays these routers have much better firewalls in them. Some of them even have like intrusion detection or intrusion protection systems built into them. So you can get a lot more security features in a modern router. And I'd recommend, if you have the budget to do that anyways. You're actually going to get likely better performance on your network. So these type of upgraded routers generally have the ability to handle more devices, and so you're gonna find an improvement there in productivity as well. The other thing you can do, if the router supports it, is deactivate unused ports. So if you have USB ports or Ethernet ports that are not in use, just deactivate them. That will limit the chances that somebody can plug some other rogue device into your network. And then the other thing you can add, which is pretty easy to add on most routers, is MAC address filtering. So in this case, you would basically only be allowing the devices that you are aware of in your organization. So you're able to find out the MAC address of every airport receiver on the laptops and the phones, put that into a database in your router, and then if anybody gets that password by accident or is able to figure out your password, they're still not going to be able to access your network without having one of the identified MAC addresses in there. So to take this a little further, you've got the ability to have some other additional improvements, and this is if you really want the best-in-class protection of your network. Again, very applicable for those companies that are large or that have the massive IoT devices or servers on their network. So having IDSs or IPSs, that's intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. Don't broadcast your SSID. So if your company, I wouldn't put under Securicy Wi-Fi, it's not Securicy, it's just not broadcast it, and therefore the employees need to know the SSID in order to access the network. You can also, in the more complex environments where there's a lot of different departments or different types of data moving around, different systems, use VLANs to segregate traffic. And then there's all kinds of VPNs and encryption tools that can be used. And of course, with the larger organizations, you're seeing a lot of organizations go with WPA2 Professional, and they're using radius servers, and that therefore it's just a little easier to manage when you have more influx of employees over time. You can turn people on and turn people off, and everybody has their own sort of unique access point there, or unique password to access the network. So there's some stuff you can do. Again, really apply it to where you're at in your business, what makes the most sense. Really do that assessment first. That's really gonna pave the way to determining what level of security you need. I hope this was helpful. Please like the video, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.